The Norton Charter Commission meeting for Monday, December 2nd. Present currently are 6 members. Denise Luciano will be joining us shortly. David Heaney and Keith Silver will be absent this evening. Is anybody here taping the meeting other than Shane? Okay, if we could stand and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, I don't think we have anybody from the public here who would like to speak in a personal capacity. Nope. Great. Moving on. All right. Officially, I'm going to try and make this quick. I know the weather is bad. I know everybody probably wants to get home as soon as possible. So with that being said, the order in which we're going to take folks is Chief Simmons first, the Cable Access Board next. The Board of Health has had to reschedule with us, and Sandy will let us know when they're available. They had a couple of medical issues, and they apologized. And then we'll take the Water and Sewer Commission. So if we want to start, Chief Simmons, you can either come to the podium, or we can pull out the table a bit, or we can just, you know what?
Probably move that mic again. Yeah. Shay, can we move this mic over to this table?
I'm actually wondering if we should just move this one.
Here it is.
You get a comfy chair.
Awesome. Thank you.
First off, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. I know tonight's not the best night weather-wise, and like I said, I'll do my best to get everybody in and out as quickly as possible. But we do very much appreciate your time, so thank you. Chief Simmons, if you could just start, if you could give us a brief introduction, tell us how long you've been, I know you're newly chief, if you could tell us how long you've...
3 months, that's easy.
How long you've been with the department. Do you live in Norton?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, I've lived in Norton for about 22 years. I've been on the department for about 21 years.
Okay. And then your current position has been short so far.
Yeah.
It's going well, I take it?
Yeah, so far, so good, yeah.
Great. Why don't you just give us just a very brief explanation of your role and the role of your staff?
So as chief, I'm responsible for all aspects of the management of the department, including planning, budgeting, administering the budget. As far as the department, you want me to speak to what the department does, or?
Why don't we just talk specifically with your role specifically?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what
Yep.
what my role is.
That's fine.
Yeah, just overall.
How many people do you manage currently? How many?
So we have 36 line personnel that work 24-hour shifts. They're divided into 4 shifts. They work 24-hour shifts, and to provide 24-hour coverage to the town. So in addition to me on days, we have a deputy chief. His primary role is fire prevention, and we have 1 administrative assistant.
Okay.
Approximately 60 homes on this property, and
And you report directly to the town manager?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on, and you can think about this in terms of your prior position as well, understanding that it's short-term right now. What are your thoughts on the level of autonomy that you have in your position?
I think it's perfect.
And your thoughts on guidance that you receive from the town, oversight specifically by the town manager?
Yeah, I have no issues. I have a really good, he's been very helpful, and I think we have a really good working relationship, so.
Do you have access to everything you need? We know a little bit about budget constraints here in town. We've heard a little bit about that. Thinking about, so not only in terms of personnel, information technology, do you have everything you need to do your job to the best of your ability?
Yeah, I think you hit on it with technology. I mean, the town provides us with a lot of good equipment. We have really good people. I'd say definitely one area that we're lacking with as a department is technology. And kind of towards, I know one of the questions you had on the list here were the trends. And that's definitely one of the trends that you see with all the departments in our area that are, equivalent to size and makeup that we are, is most of them have far surpassed us in the area of technology. So,
Is that specifically in just dispatch, or is that meaning technology that you need on a day-to-day basis?
yeah,
to
quite
do
honestly,
your job?
in most areas, what you see, most departments now have mobile devices accessible in the fire apparatus and ambulances and command vehicles. And most of those systems now are cloud-based, so they can actually access information that's relevant to system, mitigating the incident that they're going to, right while they're driving to that call, not the person that's driving, obviously, but the person in the passenger seat, right? So that includes pre-plans, medical information, special circumstances at that, residence, hiring locations, directions. I mean, I could go on and on, but stuff that's useful, relevant to whatever incident that it is. So a lot of places are using that. We just, not too long ago, purchased software that'll allow us to get to that point, but we don't have the hardware for our apparatus to be able to utilize that at this point. So hopefully we can work towards that, We don't have that software up and running yet either. We don't have the personnel to have the time to upload all that information and input all that information. So we're working towards it, but it's just very slow because most departments have more people available to do that kind of stuff. So, excuse me. So that's from like a response side of it. From an administrative standpoint, as far as technology goes, we're doing paper pay slips. We track people's time off in like cards that have 400 squares on them, and you write initials, whether it was a V for vacation or P for a personal day. And, we're using a lot of handmade Excel spreadsheets and that sort of thing. So a lot of departments are using technology to assist with all that kind of stuff. It increases their efficiency and, eliminates errors and allows those people to be doing other more productive things to progress their department forward. So.
All right, so we've talked a little bit already about the trends.
The only other thing I would say with the trends is, in addition to what I just said, was you are seeing some more utilization of regionalization with departments. As you can see, obviously, you all know that we're going that way with dispatch. And you're seeing that with a lot of team-based concepts, like the technical rescue team, SWAT teams and that type of thing. So you're starting to see that. You don't see a lot of regionalized fire departments around here. Northeast hasn't really warmed up to that.
Yeah.
But throughout the country, you do see that utilized a lot as well.
Do you think that's more of a, is it more of a need due to, let's say, kind of the suburban sprawl, or is, in terms of there's just not enough?
Yeah, honestly, that's a tough one to answer. Obviously, some of the first fire departments started up in the Northeast, and we're kind of really entrenched in the history of how we do things. We're not, change is difficult for a lot of people. A lot of those other departments started a lot, further on down the line. They just seem to be a lot more progressive with that kind of stuff.
Okay. I could see there being a need for regionalization in more rural areas, let's say, where, you might have farmland and there's only so many houses in a set square mile, and it doesn't need a dedicated
Right.
firehouse for each town or district.
Yeah.
But within kind of more concentrated areas here, like the Northeast, you're still seeing regionalization.
No, like I said, the Northeast, you don't see a lot
It's
of
not.
that. Yeah,
Got
throughout
it.
the rest of the country, they really do utilize that concept quite a bit.
Okay.
In urban and suburban areas, in rural areas as well.
Okay.
So,
All right, so I'm going to ask you some questions now, specifically related to town government. You can feel free as a resident also answer these on a personal level if you choose not to want to discuss them more on a professional level. But as it relates to kind of how our town government operates, are there things that you think we should start doing, stop doing, or I lost the third one. Discontinue doing.
I got you.
Yeah. Or keep doing.
Yeah. From a professional standpoint, so far, every, board or committee that I've met with has been really good to work with, So I'd start by saying, honestly, I think we're very fortunate to have so many good people in the town, you know, whether they're paid doing their jobs or they're volunteering for boards or committees or commissions like you guys are. So I think we're really fortunate for that, so that's definitely one thing that I like about our town. And I think it gives all those people some buy-in and some, you know, to the direction that we're going and stuff too. So, you know, as far as the town meeting part of it, I do like the fact that everybody gets a chance to vote and have their voice count for the people that actually go to the meetings. I know you probably heard, you know, that before too. You know, also, I guess, you know, that being said, it seems more often than not that the vote always goes in sync with what the Finance Committee has previously recommended to. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I can probably articulate on that.
Okay. Was there anything that we didn't ask you about specifically that you wanted to raise with us this evening?
No, the only other thing I can think of, I know you probably heard this from 100 people, if you've interviewed that many already, is I do feel as well that we need a human resources person for the town and an IT person. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Just a couple times.
Yeah. I don't want to be redundant, but.
No, it's good. It's nice that it gets on record as well. So, you know, when and if we have to go to the town and say, you know, we need more money, these meetings are a good example of, just go back and watch any of them, and every single department is saying the same.
Really?
thing. So,
They get as much.
yeah. So it helps, I think, so appreciate that. Anything else?
No, I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I know y'all volunteering a lot and working really hard to try to make, you know, our form of government more efficient and more effective. So from me and from our department, I thank you for that. You know, I would also say, I'm trying to do the same thing for our department. So in the course of, you know, speaking with people and research that you're doing, if you come across anything that you think that we could do to improve our department to be more efficient or effective, then, you know, even personal or research-wise, you know, please feel free to reach out to me. So,
Thank you, we appreciate
All right.
that.
Thanks, Chief.
all right.
If there's
Great
anything
night.
that
Thank
you think of afterwards that you left and said, I forgot that, just send us an email.
Feel free to give me a call or email. Yep.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, have a good night.
You as well.
You too.
All right. Next up, we have the Cable Access Board.
Good evening.
Hi.
Ray Cord, Treasurer of the Norton Cable Access Board, and I'll introduce the rest of our board. Charlene Fisk is our chairperson, Paul Driscoll, our school representative, and absent tonight, Ellen Kane, who is our Wheaton College representative, and Michael Kramer, who is another school representative. So we try to get a cross-section representation on the corporation. Jason, I'm going to let you carry the ball here, since you've got the facts and figures. Jason, yeah, sure. Jason will carry the ball from here.
All right, great. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to open with a little brief 4-minute video that just, you know, gives an overview of the services we provide to the town. Would you guys be cool with that?
That would be great, thank you.
Roll it.
was awesome. Did you do that just for us?
I did. Well, it's like, sometimes you don't remember all the things, and it's
Yeah.
easier to see it,
Well, I saw the Veterans Day Parade and said, oh, this is new. And then I saw our last meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I appreciate that. Thank you. Just as an overview, the Cable Access Board specifically is Board of Selectmen appointed. There are 7 seats, 3 of which are designated to the school, 3 of which are designated to the town, 1 of which is designated to Wheaton. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like 5 seats are currently held?
Correct, yep.
Okay. And staff support is Jason Benjamin, Director of the Norton Media Center. So, thank you very much for coming in that video. That was great. Appreciate that. If you want to give us a little bit of an introduction about you specifically, how long you've been at Norton Media Center, and just a little bit of your responsibility at the Media Center, and then if you don't mind, we'd also just like to hear from, who is the chair of the board? Okay. Hi. Just kind of get feedback in terms of how the board and staff works together would be very helpful.
Well, we normally have,
I'm sorry, I don't mean,
that's okay. You stay there.
Okay.
I can yell over you if you know.
Okay.
Yeah, the basic setup of our board is 2 from the town, 2 from the schools, and 1 from Wheaton.
okay. And that's presently how
And-
it's,
Say again?
is that presently how it's seated?
I can't hear her.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And how long have you been on the board?
6 years, 7 years, something like that.
Okay. And Jason, how long have you
This is
been
my
in
second
term?
third go around.
I've been here for 17 years.
17, okay. And just for my own edification, can you explain to me what the difference between the Cable Access Board is and the Cable Commission? Because I noticed we have both.
Yeah, one is just to, it's supposed to be to negotiate the license with Comcast. It comes up every 10 years.
Okay, and that's the
So-
commission.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that's kind of a subgroup of the Cable Access Board. It just so happens that when I first came on, they were completely separated, and now we do both. We kind of wear 2 hats.
Got it.
And we just finished a negotiation. So we're in our 2nd license.
Okay. Can you explain to me and to the commission how the Norton Media Center is funded? Is it self-sustaining? Is it a
Yes,
nonprofit?
we don't get any funding through taxpayer dollars. It's all through our subscribership. We have about 5,000 subscribers in town that subscribe to Comcast. And then they give us a percentage. Right now, we just negotiated at 5% of their revenue for those subscribers for pole rights in town to hang their cable so that they can do business.
That was something we hadn't had before.
Okay. And I'm sorry,
Should've, but we didn't, so.
Yeah.
did you confirm it is a nonprofit?
Yeah, we're a 501c3.
501c3,
Okay. And how often does the board meet?
once a month.
And on any given meeting, what is the role of the board specifically?
Well, we've got a team in with development that
Well, the best thing I can say is this month's meeting that's coming up in December. It's our fall distribution of the grants.
still got the same.
We do that twice a year, once in July, once in December. It's open to anyone in town, especially a nonprofit, looking for technology that they could not otherwise be able to get. So this meeting will primarily be to discuss that
Okay.
and decide who's going to get what. We have a certain amount of money that is there, and we try and equally distribute it among everybody.
How many grant applications do you typically get in a season?
This is the lowest amount we've gotten in a long time. Sometimes we get 15, 20. So you have to kind of, everybody gets a chance to come. Anybody who files a grant is allowed to come in and have 10, 15 minutes to present their case. The schools especially, you saw on the clip, one of the girls come in, they had made something from the 3D printer that we had given them.
Okay.
And they come and they explain what they've done and things like that. So it's nice to see that they've actually used what we've given them for what they asked us for, you know, so.
Who are the typical entities that are seeking grants? Is it mostly from schools?
You can take this one.
Yeah, no, it's the schools, the library, fire department, police department, different departments that are looking for technology over and above, you know, what their budgets can allow.
Okay,
The normal budget.
okay.
Yeah.
I was actually going to wonder if Chief Simmons had mentioned he had a shortfall
We
in
have
a
one in.
particular piece of
We have one in
technology.
this rotation. The police
Excellent.
department has one in. The
Okay.
library has one in. There are 3 from the schools.
Okay. And typically, how much are you,
10%.
okay, of your budget goes out in grants? And what is that roughly in a given year, let's say right now?
Could be in the 20s to 30s.
Okay. All right, and you,
We try and have people, when they do give us a grant
proposal,
proposal, to kind of structure it to be, this is the low end, this is the middle end, and this is if I can have everything I want, this is what I get.
okay,
So we have a range that we can look at and sometimes meet them in the middle and, or they'll do a half a year and then when the next round comes, they'll get the rest of it. And
The nice thing
it's worked.
about the way the board is structured is that we have an even representation on town side, school side, Wheaton, so everyone gets represented. It's not, you know, I really like the way that it's balanced that way, and I think it just shows in the way that the organization is run, and I think that's a good thing.
and did I understand you correctly, everybody gets something, it's split up equally amongst all the grant proposals, or are you grading them based on merit or need?
Very few times when people haven't gotten something.
Okay,
And I think that only time was when we had so many. It just would have been, people would have been getting nothing towards what they asked for. And there are occasions when people put grants in and they're not what the grants are described for. You know, they're not technology-based. We've had people ask for cars, transportation, you know, things that just because you can't get it in your budget doesn't mean that we're gonna get it for you.
understood, so it's got to be technology-based. Okay. Quick question I could not figure out, how is the director of Norton Media Center hired? How did you obtain your job?
I actually came in when there wasn't really cable access in town to speak of.
Okay,
It was just a board that had convened. They were given the money from Comcast. They didn't really know where to go with it and how to, you know, put the equipment together. And I kind of came from an IT background, and I was a consultant to the board while they were forming. And then when it came time for them to hire full-time, they put it out, and I applied for that position. And I've since done consulting for several area towns and helped them to build their studios too, same as Norton.
okay. So would you say you report to the board?
Yes.
Okay. And in the event, God forbid, you were to take a job elsewhere and needed to be replaced, is the board the one
Yes.
to replace you? Okay,
In the beginning, we were a town department, and then we shifted it over to a 501c3 to follow the trends of the industry and other towns. And they found that that was better because it depoliticized it. If someone were to answer to someone in town, they could be accused of, giving favor to one group or another group. And so this is completely separated, and so it has a nice buffer there.
And the town doesn't have to budget anything for the operating expenses or anything else. It's totally, totally separate and totally taken care of.
Yeah.
Great. So right now, your board is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. What are your thoughts on how members are chosen for that board?
It's more or less based on the interest from the public.
Okay.
If someone comes in and wants to be on the board, you know, they get interviewed by the select board and then they pretty much get in. Because as you guys know, there's a dearth of volunteers.
There are.
For all of these different departments. And so we welcome someone who is passionate and who is excited about the mission that we have. And that's usually how it goes. And we've been very fortunate and had really excellent, very dedicated volunteers that have been, I mean,
And
you've
our,
been with us for 7 years.
yeah, our board's been pretty stable.
Yes.
We haven't had much of a turnover other than when someone's retired.
How long have you been on
We
that?
had a person from Wheaton, and they were on for many, many years. And they ended up retiring, and that's how we had to get a replacement.
I've had 2 stints, yeah.
Yeah. So Ray's been on even longer.
Okay. And how about you, Mr. Driscoll?
I've been about 7 years, same as Sean.
Okay.
About the same time.
Okay. And so it looks like you're allocated 7 spots, of which 5 are held right now. What are your thoughts on the number of members on your board? Is 7 a good number?
It seems to be. I think sometimes when you get too many people and too many, ideas going, things get a little chaotic. I think it's a good
It's,
good
you
amount.
know, it's a small group, but we're usually always there.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a meeting, we have very few times where we haven't been able to have a meeting because we don't have a quorum, so it's worked out really well.
And each time the board meets, the director is present, so you're
Yes.
at all the meetings? Okay. And that's once a month. What are your thoughts on do you get much guidance from the town or input from the town? Are you seeking input from the town?
All the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole town is our boss, really. I mean, if something needs to be covered, if, people let us know, and we make our best effort to cover that, and we rarely have to say no.
Okay.
So,
I was going to ask if you have access to everything you need, but you seem to be self-sustaining, so I'm probably going to skip that. Your funds are limited to whatever your subscriber base is.
right.
Has that been increasing, decreasing, staying the
Believe it or
same?
not, it has been increasing,
It has?
Yeah.
Okay.
because they just keep raising the prices.
The subscriber level or the?
The provider.
Okay.
And that's something, we always get this a lot. People say, well, where's Verizon? How come I can't get Fios? The
That's
town's
okay,
just
yeah.
blocking Fios. We're not blocking Fios. We would love to have Fios in here, because then we would have another provider who is also paying revenue into the organization.
Yeah.
But and we haven't begged them to come in, but we've called them and encouraged them to come into town, and they have not because of the population density.
Okay.
They prefer like larger cities where they can get a better ROI on their investment.
Okay. In the event there was a decrease in the subscriber level, would there be a commensurate increase in the percentage that they would share with you to keep you?
No, it's capped at 5.
It is, okay. Are there any trends, changes, and regulations in this particular area that you're seeing that could impact your function going forward?
Yeah, I'll just read this so I don't get it wrong, but the FCC has recently amended their rules relating to the licensing of cable television and internet service providers to allow them to count some of their existing infrastructure as in-kind contributions towards the town. This means that our operating revenue may in the future be subject to chargebacks for the value of that infrastructure. Since the FCC regulations have limited the scope of what infrastructure would be subject to this new provision, I do not foresee any significant interruption in our income that would create any need to change our business model. So in the beginning, we were afraid that that might be the case. But I met with some senators and different people, with the FCC, and we sent a bunch of letters on behalf of the board, and it looks as though they're limiting their chargebacks, so we should be good for the foreseeable future.
Is this structure set up similar to other towns in which you've
Yes.
worked?
Mhm.
Okay. Are there any towns doing things differently that you might want to adopt at some point?
No, it's working.
Okay. All right. Getting into a little bit of town government, and thinking about the way town government operates. Are there things that we should start doing, continue doing, discontinue doing?
No, not that I can, I defer to the board on this. I'm happy with the way things are, so.
Well, like you said, we've been working well together, so we usually don't have any kind of issues.
Okay.
And we're all relatively in touch with each other, even when we're not having meetings. Like, we have an email group, and if something comes up and we need to take care of it right away, we just email each other, and we usually get an answer right off. So, we haven't had any, it's not like we wait until a meeting to discuss everything, so.
Got it.
Usually our meetings are pretty concise and short, because we know what we're doing.
Okay. If I could just get Mr. Driscoll or Mr. Cord, did you have any feedback in regards to the way town government operates, and any thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share with us?
One of the things that the cable committee did do over, how many years ago did we do the fiber project?
Right, 10.
10 years ago?
Right after we moved
Right.
into
What
that.
About 11 years
Yeah.
ago, okay? Before we instituted the grant program, we had a project that ran fiber optics from the police department all down 123 to the Chartley Fire Station, and connected every town building and every school on that network. I think we need to use that network more from a technology standpoint. We're
We
doing a-
also ran from Chartley to the water department.
To the water department
Because
when they
where they're
moved also.
located, that was the only way they could have access to anything.
So from a technology standpoint, we are getting some video surveillance of the schools back to the police department on that fiber. We're certainly using it for data connectivity between the servers and the remote users and that kind of stuff. But I think there's an awful lot more that we can tap into that infrastructure and get payback from. But we can't do it, we can't run a corporation the size of the town of Norton without an IT department. We don't have, we pay a subcontractor
Yes.
to come in twice a week for 4 hours each to take care of the needs of the town. You can't run a town that way. You need a network. Paul is, network
Schools.
engineer for the schools.
Yep.
Right. The school department has a great IT infrastructure. Can't we tap their talent? Love to.
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions specifically for cable access on the Norton Media Center?
I guess I was just curious about I think you said there was seven positions on the board? Is that correct? And 5 are filled?
Yep.
So a quorum is what, 4? Based on that, so if you're missing, so I'm just curious, if you mentioned it hasn't caused a problem, but I was wondering why you keep it, why it's not a problem, I guess, unless everyone is showing up.
Yeah, everyone shows up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good board.
But the
Yeah,
more the merrier,
So you like having it at 7, so you don't see it as a problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't cause you problems with quorum.
Yeah. I think maybe if we were meeting more than monthly, that might be an issue, but,
People wouldn't be able to make it.
yeah.
Any other questions? Was there anything we didn't ask you about specifically that you'd like to raise with us?
No,
Okay. We very much thank you for your time.
thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Please be careful getting home. Board of Health could not be here. That's just for Denise's purposes. So we will move on to the Water and Sewer Commission, please. Bless you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, gentlemen.
I'm Luke Grant, this is Steve Bishop.
Very nice to have you. Thank you very much. Just for the commission's knowledge, the Water Sewer Commission consists of 3 members, of which they are elected. And Scott Allerhead, I believe, is the 3rd. And you have staff by means of a superintendent, Frank Fournier, who has not been to meet with us, I don't think.
He's what?
Sandy?
He hasn't
I don't
met
think
with
so,
this
no,
board, I'm
okay.
not sure.
Okay. So thank you again for coming. If you could just give us a quick background, what are your tenures on the commission specifically?
I was trying to think as I was listening to the others, I think maybe I'm 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
How long have you been?
Oh, 5, 6, 5, maybe
Time,
5.
time flies.
Yeah. What specifically, what are your background? What made you want to run for the Water Sewer Commission?
Well, I'm a excavation contractor, so I do various utilities in southeastern Massachusetts. I've seen from the contractor side, I want to say this the best possible way, different ways of running departments. And I've tried to make, through our dealing with developers who come to town and improve our infrastructure, the best deal I can for our town. So seeing that as, from a contractor standpoint, I had some basis on what I thought it should be from the town standpoint. Together with the other board members, we've negotiated utilities that the developers brought to our system from 274 East Main Street was the most recent significant project, and I think we do very well for our town. That's one of our primary focuses, is negotiating contracts with incoming developers. We also set a policy as to rules and regulations, water rates, sewer rates. There's a lot of talk now, I'm sure you all know, there's a multi-million-dollar, upwards of $10 million water treatment facility just about to be turned on. We're very proud of that. That's going to improve the quality of the water over time significantly. It's those sorts of things that we involve ourselves with. The, as you mentioned, Frank Fournier, the superintendent, runs the day-to-day operations. Frank is a employee of the town, whereby Mike Units, the town manager, Frank's reports directly to Mike on employment issues. And he kind of serves 2 bosses as he serves our commission on instituting our policy and goals and objectives for the long range of the water department.
How often does the commission meet?
We meet usually twice a month, and then we get these added tidbits of coming to see nice folks like you.
You're welcome.
I said thank you. I didn't see any cookies, though. We're big cookie fans.
Sorry. Very, very, we should have brought snacks. We're heading to the end of our interviews, so at this point,
Very
it
good.
would be, we can't start now. It would be unfair to
All
everybody
right.
else.
Well, you need to come to one of
I'm
our
sorry.
meetings.
I have a granola
Mr.
bar.
Bi-
I have a good-
Bishop usually brings the cookies.
Okay. I know there's been a lot of discussion in town and brought up at town meetings. What are your thoughts on how the members are chosen for your commission?
You have any thoughts?
I like the way it's done, you know?
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I'm
here because of it.
Yeah. What we're about is within the structure of the town. I have to open with that, but somewhat of an autonomous division of utilities. If, for instance, the board were an appointed board, perhaps, I'm going to go out on a limb and say some board members may feel compelled to bend to requests from those who appoint them for monies to go somewhere else or do certain things that elected members have. We answer to the people. If the people don't like what we're doing, they can replace us. I think that, and that's been brought up, as you probably well know, and voted down.
Yeah.
To change our board to an appointed board. Day to day, meeting to meeting, it doesn't really matter how, whether you're appointed or elected. Some of our members have been appointed over the years because one reason or another, somebody leaves town, or
Somebody doesn't run.
somebody retires or whatever, so the vehicle or the mechanism is there for folks to, selectmen to put out requests for applicants. Applicants come before the board, and usually there's not a whole bunch, and then they are appointed. So, much like the cable board, I'll say it works well. We're a small board. We don't generally talk between meetings. Steve's chief operator in Mansfield of the water system, so he has an extreme knowledge of water systems specifically, and Scott, our other board members and engineer, so he also knows it from a different way. So I think we have a good combination. We can look at the emails that get circulated. Our consulting engineers are a critical component of our board because they keep us in line with upcoming rules, regulations, deadlines. There's just a huge chunk of what you have to do to meet all your DEP, state, and federal regs that they kind of take the reins on, and we're lucky to have them. So they circulate emails, we can communicate with them. We come to the meetings and we've done our background. We're all kind of water geeks, so it takes us 5 minutes, we have a couple cookies and we go home.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the number of members on your board? It's small. Is it sufficient? Do you wish there were more?
I, for one, have been on the board with the three for the duration, and I think it's fine. We are lucky enough to have Scott, who also is a member of the Conservation Commission, and I think that's okay. It's just there's a certain number of people in town who do everything. So if you have, like, let's say we had a 7-member board, you'd have to grab somebody from another board because people just don't seem to get up off the couch and help. They will sit on the couch on their laptops and gripe about what we have, but they're not willing to get out of their comfort zone on the edge of their couch and get their butts in a seat and help us. So I think if you put 10 up, I think we're going to get 3.
Okay.
Or we're going to get 3 to the meetings.
Yeah.
It's nice for somebody to feel like they might want to participate, but they really don't. About that.
Understood. What are your thoughts on the way the commission works with department staff?
We kind of are independent of that. Frank really is the superintendent, day-to-day ops. We really are not a management board. We're more policy and goals and objectives, long range, water treatment plant, water quality, kind of bending the ear of the local state representatives to get what we need for our town, whether it's funding or whether it's a little nudge on a DOT permit or something. So we're kind of big picture people. The staff and the day-to-day ops are really superintendent and ultimately Frank and then Mike Units. So we don't deal with an employee issue other than I should point out we've recently through the water treatment permitting and installation process, we're hiring a couple more guys because obviously we need more staff to run the plant. These folks have to have really, really specific licenses. We're lucky to have a couple guys from within move over to the plant. And so we're going to have to hire probably people from the outside to bring them in. I think we have 7 folks in the field now, Derek and Frank as kind of the top two guys, and then we have two office staff.
Okay.
So,
Were you involved in the hiring process?
from time to time, we are, like when there was a opening in the superintendent's position, I would interview new applicants with Mike as they would answer to him and also the board. So at that point, we would have input as to the superintendent. But as I'll call it the rank and file guys, it's really Frank and Mike, as they are directly reporting to Frank and Mike.
Okay. That actually gets into a little bit of my next question. We've seen some boards that have responsibility for the hiring process of their own department head. Are you comfortable with the way it is now, where you have some input with the town manager? Would you prefer to directly hire them?
We had, in the beginning of, when I came on, the superintendent at the time, Mr. Dwayne Knapp, a good guy, reported directly to the board, and through I think it was the Charter Commission at that time, kind of blended or directed the superintendent's oversight to the town manager. This is kind of a Bob Kraft, Bill Belichick thing. I don't care. Any superintendent or the superintendents I've dealt with have usually picked up the phone when I call, kind of pretty much do what we ask, and 99% of the time, I think the town manager's objectives and the Water Sewer Commission's objectives are very similar. So you don't get this, hey, you should really be doing this. It seems to be working. We personally, and as a group, we have no ego issues. I don't want to say we should be telling this guy what to do. I don't think that's really necessary. I think it's okay the way it is. It was okay before. There was no real change other than the semantics of how the superintendent directly works. I guess as a very interested first party, I'll say you have a town manager who's here day to day. If the superintendent, or either or, if the superintendent has something he needs, it's probably good to have a town manager who's compensated that can take care of things for him, and vice versa. If the town manager has things that the town needs, it's probably better than trying to track one of us down and then get in touch with the superintendent. But again, it's been a rewarding experience to have the superintendent's ear. And recently on a weekend, someone in my personal network texted me about a sewer rotor on Reservoir Street, texted Frank, boom, situation was addressed within the hour. So it's not like, oh, you're not my boss, I'm not talking to you. It's just, it's information. And I don't think any of us kind of look at the hierarchy, if you will. It's an informal, good network of communication.
All right, I think we've covered the next one to the most extent. Understanding that you're an enterprise account, and I am assuming you have access to everything you need in terms of information, technology, staffing, to function properly.
Yeah, both water and sewer run on their own as described by the enterprise account. It's working to the best of its ability. You could always have more. There's never enough money. There's always more projects, but I think the guys in the field do an outstanding job with what they have to work with. A lot of people will tell you the water's horrible and this and that. Our aquifer is a bowl. I don't want to oversimplify things, but we have a bowl, and you have straws in the bowl, and we don't have any filters on the straws yet. And what the guys do is magic to bring that water out of the ground and put it at your taps as good as it is, as often as it is. And they don't get enough credit for that. So I'll sit here and say that they do an amazing job with what they have to work with.
Have you worked with or come across any towns where your function is structured differently that we may want to consider?
Yes, I have, and I don't think you should do it. From time to time, you see that the select board is our board of water sewer commissioners as well. And that speaks to my prior statement about autonomy. Let's say there's a certain amount of funds available for something in town, and, you know, there's no glory to the water and sewer stuff. A lot of it is what you've seen with this latest sewer project. It interrupts people's lives, it's loud, it's disruptive, it's horrible, but in the end, you get more businesses coming to town because you've got a nice sewer pipe, a sewer treatment plant, lift stations here or there. There's no drama. Doesn't make your town more beautiful, doesn't seem to make you more money, but it makes things more attractive to commerce. But in the autonomy of our department, all we really need to look at is water and sewer. I will open with, I've had 2 girls graduate from Norton High. We don't care about the schools. It's not our thing. We're water and sewer. That's all we focus on. The fire department, the police department, they're members there with the town. So if you have the selectmen who have all these draws on their funds and their attention, and they gotta keep this one happy and that one happy, it would pollute the process if it were a combined board. The water and sewer is really critical that the infrastructure of the water and sewer is looked at by, not necessarily me, but other water geeks.
Please.
Mr. Bishop, how does Mansfield work?
Mansfield has that lovely setup where the select board are the water sewer commissioners. And Mansfield's Disney World, he'll tell you. You get what you want.
Pretty much.
They never
We're an
s-
enterprise system as well.
They never saw an override they didn't like.
Bless you.
And what about an engineer from your side, of, like, in Mansfield? They have a on-staff engineer?
They
Works
do,
directly with you guys.
and they'll deal with this independently on some things, but we have a contracted engineer, Woodard and Curran, that comes in and takes care of our stuff, such as Weston and Sampson. Same thing. Yep. And they're critical to a lot of the things that we've done, such as we've built 3 plants in Mansfield, one off north of the upstream of the aquifer that we're building on now. And it's changed the town as soon as that went online. Well, after about a year, it went online, after a couple biannual flushes, and it's gonna be, you guys are gonna have to erect statues in our faces. I'm telling you, I'm excited because I've seen it work incredibly in Mansfield, and this is the same scenario.
Okay.
And you get your 3 worst wells that are being attacked by this manganese and iron that's rampant all over this area.
Right.
Not just Norton, this whole area. Sorry, I got Doug.
You're okay. The other thing about Mansfield you need to know, and in the engineer scenario, they run a DPW that oversees all of it. So the DPW has highway, water, and sewer. So there's an engineer on top of that. We'll call it a little more chiefs. There's a few more chiefs in that organization.
That was sort of getting to my question. I was wondering if in towns where the Board of Selectmen are the Water and Sewer Commission, have you noticed any trend in the form of government? Is that specific to a specific form of government that you think it's structured that way, or is it just?
If I may, I think it's probably just us as humans being resistant to change. In each municipality, so on and so forth, it's been a certain way, and so maybe people just see that as the way to go.
Okay.
And it's not regional. I don't know that there's a rhyme or reason for it. It just, I think it's good the way it is.
Okay.
I mean, you got a good group. We're fortunate enough to have Frank, because he's so hands-on. He's got his finger on the pulse of everything that's sewer, water related, regulations related, everything. He's really got his finger. If you heard some of his superintendent reports, he's He's got everything.
Detail-oriented does not
Very,
begin to
yeah.
describe our super, we're very lucky.
Yep, seriously, we are. And with his knowledge and his background and his knowledge of the system, because he was a worker here already, he works very well with our department. Actually, he called me on a Saturday once because they had a leak at one of the tanks. So we work really well together, even outside of work, with my water experience in Mansfield, and we work really well together, and he's just, me personally, I am totally impressed by how he runs the department and what he's done. He's made our job a lot easier, so we can concentrate on other things. And we work very well together as a group with the experiences that we have, the different backgrounds that we have, me with water, construction, engineering. And me personally, I think the board is set up very well. We were fortunate enough to have Diane before this, Diane McElligott, and she was also an engineer. So it was a great mix of knowledge. My opinion, of course.
I'm sorry, I don't know who Diane is.
Oh, Diane McElligott, she's,
Former chairwoman.
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
She stepped or didn't run?
I'm sorry?
She did not run again?
No,
I think she ran against Tom Weir, and Tom Weir beat her and then moved to Texas. Took a job in Texas or something.
Tom did or Diane?
Tom did.
She's
Okay.
actually part of the
Diane's-
MFN.
Right.
The-
Diane's our regional, or our town rep for the Mansfield, Foxborough, Norton sewer
Okay.
treatment plant.
She'll come into meetings every now and then and discuss some financial aspects of what they do and what we're, because we pay into them and what we, she's very knowledgeable when it comes to that stuff.
Okay. Following up, I was wondering if there was a prevalence of a Board of Selectmen being the Water Sewer Commission in a particular type of government, but now I'm wondering if it is in towns that have a DPW. Is there any coincidence between?
I haven't looked at it that way.
Okay,
It's interesting. It very well may be.
just thoughts just popping in. Okay, thinking now about the way town government operates, and you both live in this town, so you can feel free to answer as a commission member or on a personal level. Thinking about the way our town government operates, are there things you think we should start doing, stop doing, continue doing?
I'm kind of a status quo kind of guy. I think things move forward well. You got good people in good places, in my opinion. You got a really good staff here, good town manager, good select board, smart people in good places. That's my opinion, again. Yep.
I think there's it's difficult to do, but if from my perspective inside, there's two communication things I think that could happen, or I don't know how to do it. We've had real estate money slip through our cracks, in a real estate transaction. The finances of our department are such that if someone doesn't pay a bill, or there's a betterment that's logged onto a house, when real estate real estate changes hands, you would think that departments do the municipal lien certificate and it cycles through all departments, but it doesn't always work. I've seen now several occasions over the years that I've been here that it just doesn't lock it down, and it's not good for us. There has to be checks and balances, and you don't want to slow the process of doing a municipal lien certificate down, or so it's bigger than that. But that's the one that comes to mind, and we could do that better from our standpoint as a water and sewer department, and from the Board of Health and the other, I don't know whether it's tax collector or whoever does that, but and I'm not criticizing anybody in specific. Honestly, I'm not that person. I just think as a group, we can do better at the communication of our outstanding obligations. And then secondly,
Do you think there's technology that could assist with that?
I don't think technology saves this one a bit. It's people. It's somebody saying, hey, we got, 185 West Street coming up. I really need what you have on that. And you could do it with a computer, but you can do it with people.
Do you mean that, like, for instance, like, if a real estate transaction, if there's a lien on the house prior to this person selling, now let's say fast forward, they do sell it, they clear title and deed, we aren't recouping the money that was left on them.
Sometimes things go different ways, and it's not always the same issue. So it's not one, I'm not pointing out any person, department, or anything. It's just, if I could be king for a day, there would be maybe a point person on when something's changing hands, and maybe it changes, maybe 10 properties a month change hands. It's not gonna be that much, but maybe some point person needs to be responsible, or however it is, in our day and age, it may be a computer program, but to each department, and it can't just be oh, hey, I emailed this out and they never got back to me. It has to be checks and balances.
So these, like, for instance, tie-ins or past paid bills, that's all that stuff?
It's all of the above.
Yeah.
It's old bills, it's a betterment here, it's an outstanding thing there, and it's just,
So can I
things
ask-
go so
mixed?
long, it gets on a back burner, and we all, in each of our professional lives, deal with the brush fire during the day. And so this other thing comes out of nowhere, and you forget about that thing that was 7 years old, and again,
If I could just ask for quick clarification, so these are things that were missed, not necessarily negotiated away for,
not negotiated away so much.
Okay.
And sometimes not missed, but just not I guess it would be accounting.
okay,
And again, I don't want to get anybody in the hot water. I'm just saying it's something that could be cleaned up.
okay.
Just for my, I'm unclear too, is this just not appropriate to the right department? Or is it that we're not collecting the taxes at all at the
No,
sale?
it's in a point where a property goes derelict usually. So there's nobody to collect from, but it accrues on the property.
Right,
And sometimes it gets just missed. It's not ironed out. It doesn't go to the right place, and
so when that sale happens, money does come into the town somewhere, but it just doesn't get appropriated, is that the problem?
it's both of the above. Sometimes the proper amount isn't brought in, and sometimes it doesn't go to the right place.
Okay,
Seen it.
okay.
And it's not right. My second, and this is a town, progress, method, I guess. I've heard of other towns that when someone comes in, whether it's a building permit, a septic application, a conservation application, there's a spearheaded department, which is the majority of the thing. So we'll say, just for ease of operation, it's a building application. The building department actually hands off to the next applicable department. So if there's a building permit application, and just for kicks, it's an addition that requires something with conservation, the person, the applicant, who doesn't know anything about our government or our town hall, doesn't have to go back to the building department and then carry it across the hall, dotting the i's and crossing the t's. The building department preps it, gets the authorization from the applicant, and the building department actually moves it to the next step, receives it back, and then takes it to the third step, which very well may be the Board of Health for a septic upgrade. Because we all know the right rules. The water and sewer know what we're gonna do. Like, so let's say we have a sewer main going in, which we do, and we need to talk with the Board of Health to decommission a septic tank. We know what that has to happen better than the applicant ever will. Another, for instance, in the Lake Wanacunnet sewer upgrade, people didn't take septic tanks out. Okay, there are septic tanks still in over there. I don't know that you guys know, but when a sewer line's supposed to go to the house, or when the sewer line goes to the house, the septic tank's supposed to be decommissioned. You don't really need it anymore. There are situations where you may leave one. 99% of the time, it should be decommissioned and removed, usually overseen by the Board of Health. But again, a sewer permit is generated. Sewer people go out, they look at it, sometimes it's on the other side of the house, sometimes there's a lazy contractor who kind of hides it. Not the best way to go. So there are ways we could do that, integrate our each department. And the departments and the town really knows, the Board of Health, I mean, the building department knows what conservation requirements exist for the pool or the addition or the setbacks. The people know, but they're running into these different positions. And we know each other and we know the requirements pretty well.
Yep.
So if you could rely on one point department for an application, I know, I read in the Globe that this model is set up in Plimpton, believe it or not, the smallest town in our state, for crying out loud, but Plimpton does it. That you bring something to the department in Plimpton and it carries it through, and with your authorization as a resident, you get what you need, and I think it's a better process.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we have a new permitting process. Isn't that exactly what that system is supposed to do, is to facilitate all of the steps of a particular project? And if so, is water and sewer not included in that permit system?
As of yet, I know the building department has gone online.
Yeah,
I don't know how that integrates with the
yeah, it should be
entire process
Board
of.
of Health, Conservation, anybody who needs to touch that particular project should be in that system.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is a perfect place for water and sewer to be included.
Right. I'm not sure at this point. It very well could be, and/or it should be. But again, the technology is one thing. It's I don't know if any of you have gone through any of the things in town to get a permit. It's hard. As a working person or somebody who works out of town or whatever, you gotta come in on maybe the Thursday night the department's open. No, wait a minute, that other department's closed that night. But I think if you could get a person or the main department, and maybe it's part of this online thing. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I think the new system that they've put in place is supposed to remediate a lot of that, I don't know where to go, and having to come specifically to town hall and walk something around to the various departments. But it almost sounds like we need to kind of coordinate water and sewer into that process as well.
Well, would you agree? I mean, I think I get the point of that. I get how efficient that would be. But if you're a contractor and you're looking to get this thing done, in my experience, and I've done this before, is that I have to go upstairs and get a building, permit. It's easy to just say, give it to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know what's going to happen here.
Right.
Between the lack of technology, between the lack of communication, whether somebody's off, whatever, I say, I'll do this myself. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going to, luckily for me, I know who I've got to go, but it's almost like, sign this, I know this is a red dot, more red tape sign off, and then I can go over to the Board of Health. The Board of Health, I have more knowledge of what I'm doing with this thing than the board, and I'm not faulting them. It's just that if they go into every single permit, if I'm gonna go get an above-ground pool, and I'm gonna go to the building, to now the public health, because that's part of the red tape process of me getting it. For me to wait 3-4 weeks, if this process is gonna take too long, that's why I think it ends up being like, you know what, give me it. I have my plot plan. I know what I'm looking at for my septic. I'm not putting my pool on top of a septic. This is what you end up getting. So if you go to a one-step process, I think that's what you're talking about is great. You go in, you submit it to the building. The building's able to forward it immediately to conservation, to public health to be signed off on, and you're getting these things in a timely return. That's one thing. But for a person to walk in and say, well, I'm going to put a 24 above-ground pool, the most basic thing you can put in someone's yard, I'm going to wait 3 weeks for that, it's unacceptable.
I'm not saying wait 3 weeks. I'm saying the folks are in the building every day, right in the office next door, where you got to come from somewhere else.
Oh, I totally agree.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying 3 weeks. I'm saying, there are parameters where something like what you're saying is not that hard.
Yeah, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all kind of thing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. I'm just saying as a town, it becomes more of a, let's do this. Let's upgrade my septic system. And we all know, rather than the way it is, or maybe the online thing's gonna make it better, but the way it is now, even as a contractor, I see it, it's almost adversarial. It's very strange, the way we deal with our customers, the taxpayers. So I think if there were a point person or a point department, there would be more responsibility to move things through. Again, these people are across the hall from each other. and they work for the town. There are better ways we could all do what we do. And I just, from my standpoint, I thought that was an interesting concept.
Are there any other questions?
I just had a quick question. I guess it's more of an opinion, but so obviously you're elected board, and you seem to like it elected. If it was appointed, well, I think I said it another way. Is an elected board limiting who is available to fill these spots? In other words, people don't want to run, and they'd rather be appointed, because, when you run, you got to put your name out there, you do. So do you feel that maybe it limits who's available perhaps to sit on the board, and maybe?
Well, it depends how you look at it. I mean, I was asked to be on the board because of my experience.
Sure.
So, I loved the idea of what direction Norton was going in. So that's why I latched onto it. I thought it was a no-brainer for me. I wanted to be involved. So, whether it be, it's really kind of how you look at it, I suppose. I mean,
I think a lot of times we have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a lot of elections and no one runs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, is that just the 30 people in town, like I said before, not wanting to get, that we all get off the couch and we're here? It's raining and snowing, but I don't think it matters if, do we have to fill out 50 signatures? Is it 50 to get elected? It's not crazy. And I'll tell you what, if you don't like taking some heat and you don't like to talk, this is not the board to be on. Okay?
Don't say.
So I'm going to tell you, I don't know that you could drag people to come and hang with us. All right, I've had angry water people with pictures and Excel spreadsheets about how we're horrible, and we are in fact the devil himself.
It's a good thing you have cookies.
Yes, and that's what the problem is. The ones who come in are so angry usually don't sip the Kool-Aid. But I don't know. I'm an extrovert. I don't mind getting 50 signatures. I know 300 people in town, probably more. So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
And,
it was more of this philosophical. I was asking, I would probably ask the planning board the same question.
Yeah. I know.
Just curious your perspective.
It just.
does that necessarily, though, mean you're going to get the most qualified person being elected or being just chosen?
Well, I guess the hope would be you could get more people to run.
The hope.
You'd have a choice to pick from, right?
Hope, the hope is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree, I think that's the water sewer commission is one that people are like, no, I don't want to.
Right now, when we get the treatment plant on and the water's pristine, everybody will be like, well, I'm in. Okay, now it makes sense. We're gonna upgrade a few mains. That's low impact. You guys have taken all the bows and arrows. I don't know. It's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other. I'm okay with how it is.
Yeah, I guess when elected, you run I'm just throwing out ideas here, but when elected, you do run the risk that someone who gets elected has absolutely no knowledge of how to run a water department.
Amazingly, though,
Well, I think it's with so few people running, you're not running into these things because.
if you don't have a certain knowledge of the water, some of our meetings are pretty dry. We're just talking, the sewer line extension and hammering in front of a house. People who are not into what we're doing are gonna fall asleep or not come.
Sure.
It's you know what I mean? It's so,
Yeah.
either you grasp what's going on or there's no way they're gonna come do it. The ones who haven't had the real, desire to improve our system, leave, whether elected or appointed. And we've had them too. So it's just, for me, I don't mind it being elected because maybe it takes that extra oomph to say, all right, I'm gonna really do this, and I wanna do this, and that's why I'm here, and that's kinda cool.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Any other questions? Is there anything we didn't ask you specifically that you wanted to raise with us tonight?
I think it's time we all should go home.
Okay.
They just called the schools for tomorrow, so.
There you go.
They just cancel it?
Yeah.
All right.
What she said, school's closed?
School's out.
Schools are not.
to have shovelers.
There you go.
There you go.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We
Thank you
appreciate
all.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for what you're doing. I know you probably don't get a lot of thanks from the general population either, but I'll say it.
You guys get a ton though, right?
Good luck out there.
Any questions? Bring them on.
Well, we'll take the heat. I got a shield, I got a jacket inside, we're good.
Thank you very much again.
Thanks again. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Good night.
All right, next up, acceptance of the meeting minutes of November 18th. Whenever somebody is ready, I will take a motion to accept the meeting minutes of Monday, November 18th.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of November 18th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Abstain.
Okay. All right,
I
meeting,
wasn't here yet. I don't think it would be right for me to.
all right, meeting minutes are accepted. Okay. Hopefully we can get out of here pretty quickly. Administrative items. I had actually forgot until I read the minutes about 2 hours before this meeting that I had said I was going to do a last push for the survey. So I'm glad I read them. We're up to 127, so we've got 3 new ones since the last meeting. Did we have anything at the senior center?
None.
Nothing, okay, and there's been nothing
double
in
check with her
the
again, but-
envelope. So for tomorrow, there's gonna be an alert going out via email at 7 AM. And then there's gonna be a second alert via text, and this is the first time I'm using a text. It's very short and sweet. It's just saying that the survey is going away on December 8th and giving the link to it. I tested it on my phone. It doesn't seem too terribly intrusive. So hopefully with that kind of 1-2 push tomorrow via the Norton Alert system, we'll get a little bit more feedback through this week. I will also ask Lucia to send out a notice through the clerk's account for Facebook. If and when you see that, if you want to share that to neighbors, friends, anybody I know, even just people I've talked to have said, oh yeah, I got to do your survey. So last call, survey is going to be shut down December 8th. All right, I think that's it in terms of admin stuff. Do we have any changes to the agenda for next meeting in terms of our people attending?
No, those are set. We just have to, we have to reschedule too.
The Board of Health,
Well, and then the historic,
yeah.
whichever historic one.
So we're gonna try for the 30th, that'll be the last meeting of the year. Okay. And I think that was it. I'm gonna assume anybody who hasn't answered us in the affirmative has no interest in coming to see us. Fair enough. Okay, anybody need to discuss anything we heard this evening here? Okay. I think we covered next steps last time. Anybody have any further questions or want to discuss that? Great. And David Wren had given me some information that I will load up to Dropbox. I had asked him to do a little bit of research with respect to representative town management, and to see if we can get some data in terms of whether towns have enough candidates to run for those seats. He's pulled a couple of articles and did a chart. I'll load that up to Dropbox so that it's available for anybody to review. And anything else in terms of, does anybody need any additional information more than what we've already discussed?
Did you collate the information that we got from the survey yet, like?
Nope, Janie's gonna do that for the next meeting. So the survey's gonna shut off on the 8th. Once that's shut off, what I'll do is I'll download the responses into, is Excel okay?
It's fine.
Okay, I'll download it into Excel and and Janie was going to have us give us a summary of the responses, not only from the survey, well, the online and the paper survey, and then coordinate in the public hearing comments, which there weren't too terribly many, and we can.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been in Dropbox, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. It's just there if you want to refer to it at some point. So everybody has access to the same information, and you can kind of grab it whenever you need it. That's our next meeting is December 16th, so I'll put that on the agenda, and we can talk about that specifically. Any other topics anybody wants to discuss this evening?
Are we going to discuss Mr. Gavea's letter, or maybe do it next meeting?
We can.
I don't
kind
necessarily
of-
have anything to say, I just.
No, I put it out there. If anybody wanted to talk about it, we should do it, obviously, at a meeting. I made it available. I think I put it on Dropbox as well. But if we get to a point where maybe, we have questions from specifically about history within the town, we can certainly invite him back and pick his brain a little bit further on an as-needed basis. So just raise your hand if you'd like to have that happen. Any other topics anybody needs to discuss? Okay. Like I said, next meeting's December 16th, and if there are no other items to discuss, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? We are adjourned.
Thank you.